Hi there, this is Joanne from TrueAuthenticPower.com from Tapping.me, and I'm also the creator of the program Catapulting to Confidence. I wanted to talk about accountability and responsibility for my life and why it's not their job or their responsibility. This was a big lesson for me, and I'm going to share some personal things here just to give you an idea of how this got integrated and kind of out of control without any of us really paying attention. Because a lot of people, when they're doing energy work or purging beliefs or changing values, or not changing values, but changing the subconscious programming, it becomes very anger induced, and a lot of time there's blame, and that may be part of the process. But I also want to explain how these things happen with nobody really at fault. I had good people as parents. That doesn't mean they were perfect in helping me develop, because they didn't get the perfect way to develop their lives either. So you can't teach what you don't learn a lot of the time, or if you don't know better. When I was growing up, I was the youngest of three, and my sisters are 10 and 11 years older than I am. So I was kind of like the only child and the one left behind to do all the, will you go and get me this? Will you help me with this? I need your help. That kind of person. This was a long time ago. So the school that I went to, the Catholic school that I went to, was very limited in the things that would have been interesting to me. Now, I did take piano lessons and I did take dance lessons, but that was very limited, an hour for each a week. And the rest of the time, there wasn't a whole lot of activity at school, is my point. So my environment was limited. Now, that may not be how your life is now, but I'm just telling you how this series of events happened. My point is, I was limited to developing things that were good for me. I had a little bit, but not very much, and certainly not a regulation like you would if you were on a sports team or swim team or, those kind of things. So I became the person who was kind of available and around, and also very responsible to be able to be leaned on, to be the go-to person to help. I need you. Can you come in here and help me? Well, I was around a lot, and I was the only one left, so I was kind of the default person in that realm, which developed a pattern. So if you're available a lot, and you're the only one who is available a lot, and you're helpful, you kind of get groomed. I got groomed into the pattern of being the go-to, being the responsible one, the helper, the one you can rely on, which are great, they're great assets, except when they get out of balance. And that kind of happened. At a very early age, my parents bought a property that needed a lot of work. And at the age of 10 and 11, I was working on a lot of responsible kind of things within this property and business that they bought. That's okay and fine too, except there really wasn't a big amount of balance between the play and the activity of developing me and what would be of interest to me in my life outside of this place that was very different from where we lived. It just developed patterns of me being responsible and accountable and reliable, and them leaning on me for that. No one's right or wrong here. It's just kind of the way it developed. What it put into me, though, was I didn't see a lot of how to develop what would be good for me. I didn't hear, what do you want to do with your life kind of things, and a lot of parents don't do that. So this is not really a blame or, fault throwing to my parents. They were raised in a time when survival was an important aspect of life, not what do you want to do and who do you want to be. So they didn't really have the tools to give that to me. And I think they were very traditional. I didn't see it in an overt way, but I did see it as, my mother kind of was grooming me to be married and have a family because that's what women do. Well, my experience saw that, I don't know that that's what I want to do. And that doesn't look like a whole lot of fun, having all that responsibility as a family. Still, I was a very responsible person. When you grow up learning those kind of patterns and they get out of balance, or you get used to them and the people that can rely on you get used to them, it can get out of balance, which in my case, it did. So fast forward later, my father had passed, my mother is very dependent on my father in a lot of ways. And she gets sick, and I become her go-to for everything, despite that I had siblings. And it became really overwhelming, and it was very smothering, as a matter of fact. And then Ray got sick on top of her, and the same kind of thing. I was a comfort zone for him. I was reliable. I was there. I was the one who was there. Can you see how the pattern was formed? It's not really anybody's fault, but it doesn't mean that things don't get formed that could be improved. It wasn't until the two of them got very sick, my mom and Ray got very sick, and it drained me beyond belief. But I was doing what I was groomed to do, what became a learned pattern, what they expected, what I expected. We were all in the boat together on the same page until it just about took me out. By the time that Ray passed, I was so physically exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally, because it was a horrendous journey. And I wasn't prepared for any of that. So now here I am. My loved ones have left. I don't really have family around me that I can lean on, or that they can now help me to nourish me back up to strength. That's when it hit me of, holy smokes. I'm accountable and responsible for my life alone, and this is not a secondary position anymore. This is, I'm it, and I'm exhausted and out of gas from all that has happened. And it was in that later years of learning that accountability and responsibility became a detrimental thing in my mind, because I was so entrenched in those saving their life role and them expecting me to do that. It drained me beyond belief. And for anybody who's done caretaking, they know what I'm talking about. It's exhausting. It's mentally, physically, emotionally exhausting. And it was a very long journey back to back with both of them. From the time that my dad died, it was very intense. So here I am emotionally drained, and now I'm accountable for my life all on my own, which I had never really, there was kind of like enough interaction where it wasn't just me developing my life. So here's now the point in time where I'm physically exhausted, not feeling well at all, and there's no help for that recovery for me. What didn't start out as anyone developing a detrimental pattern in any way developed into a detrimental pattern, because now with this new awakening, a lot of people are gone that I would interact with or lean on or, have emotional support from are now gone. And accountability and responsibility have become like 4-letter words to me. I don't want it. I don't want to be anywhere near it. And I wasn't used to necessarily focusing on me and what I needed. Can you see how that would have developed? It's not anybody's fault, but it did develop into a pattern. So my point of doing this audio today is, if you think that somebody else is accountable for your life, I'm here to tell you, learn this lesson sooner rather than later, because it is not their job to develop your world, your life, your enjoyment, your satisfaction, your wealth, your health. You can rely on people and interact with people and do it in cooperation and conjunction. But if you are putting that responsibility on someone else, as my mom did on me, as Ray did on me when they were very sick, and that's understandable, it really took me down. My point is, be careful what you're doing with your own accountability and responsibility for your life. There are certain programs that I will see, the dating programs, the love programs, whatever. And I hear these modern day women who are still expecting their husbands, partners, boyfriends to fill them up, take care of them, take care of their emotional needs, make me feel good, make me feel important. No, that is your job. And one of the reasons I talk about subconscious beliefs and energy and what are you believing to be true about your life, because when you put that responsibility on someone else, oftentimes you will be very disappointed. They will let you down because it's not their job. You are not looking for a new daddy to take care of you. You are looking for a partner to enjoy your life with. But if you were raised to believe the man has to provide, In this day and age, I think you're setting yourself up for some big trouble. And it will hit you later should that relationship fall apart. And that support that you have relied on as your sole support is no longer there. If you develop what you need, what you like, what your interests are, using your brilliance, using your gifts and talents to develop your world and your life, and clear out the reasons why your life can't be healthy, wealthy, fulfilling, loving, joyful, when you clear some of that old stuff out, it's amazing how things can start to unfold and open up. When you look at people who are in older ages, and I don't even mean old, I just mean beyond the 20s and 30s, that's when illness starts developing. That's when overwhelm starts developing. That's when big life issues start showing up more so. Not to say that some people haven't had big life issues before that. Many have. I'm not talking about abuse or traumas. I'm talking about things like people die, people leave your life, marriages end, illness happens. That's a buildup of energy that has gotten out of control, that is probably giving you nudges along the way that you're not paying attention to. The reason I do these audios is because of what I wish I had known early on in my 20s and 30s to pay attention to. Am I developing my life? Am I exploring things that could be fun for me? Am I getting the energy and beliefs out of my system, my physical body, and my energy to open up a pathway to allow that exploration and evolvement? When you don't do that at younger ages, you will get hit with some of those life lessons. Life is going to be full of life lessons anyway. The thing that I see happen to a lot of people, though, is they're not paying attention. They're relying too much on other people because maybe they weren't developed in that way by their family or parents or school. Or maybe they never even paid attention to what they really love and there wasn't anybody to guide them in that direction. It doesn't have to be somebody's fault or you weren't good enough parents. Why didn't you do this for me? Because they didn't know how. It's not a fault. They teach you what they were taught. And if you don't figure some of those things out, what do I love? What kind of people do I love being around? How do I want to make my money? What kind of things bring me joy? What kind of things bring me enjoyment? If you can't even dream of those things, then chances are you were never allowed to really focus on the things that bring you joy. You were maybe falling into place of what they needed you to be. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. Anytime I do these audio videos, I hope I'm getting the point across. Pay attention. That's the message. Your accountability and responsibility is your work. And when you have that lined up, things fall more into place. But when you are relying on someone else for your life, for your support, for them to provide to you what you say you need that you're not working to get on your own, it's not that you can't get that from other people. I'm not talking about being an island. That's not at all what I'm saying. But if you are thinking someone else is going to make you feel good about yourself, you're barking up the wrong tree. If you think someone else is going to make you feel good about yourself, what happens when they stop? What happens if they're not there anymore? What happens if that honeymoon period wears off and you're saying, what the heck? You used to do this. Well, people do that when they're crazy about each other. But as life kind of sifts out, they've got their own journey to figure out. They've got their own life to figure out, what do I need here? And so do you. So whether this is male or female, you've got to figure out, what are you doing to be responsible and accountable for your own life? And it can be a fun search. It doesn't have to be heavy. But I will tell you, after everybody left and I was left holding the bag and exhausted, I didn't want to go anywhere near accountability and responsibility for myself, for anyone else, for anything. In fact, I had a physical panic attack, and I'm not talking where I fell apart emotionally crying or couldn't breathe. I actually was asked to take care of someone's dog for 2 weeks. I love dogs. I loved the place where I was going to be. I had never done animal caretaking like that before. I've been around animals for sure, but not taking care of someone's animal. And it was shortly after Ray had died, within a year or maybe the next year. And my foot started aching like I couldn't walk on my foot. If you don't think that was my energy screaming of, what are you doing? Don't go taking care of that dog. You don't want to be taking care of that dog. You don't want the responsibility. What are you, nuts? My body was physically trying to stop me. I didn't do anything to my foot. There was nothing wrong with my foot, but it got so bad, I had to walk on a walker. And the people that I was house sitting for and taking care of their pet were in Florida. So it's not like they could come and help me. It was the craziest scenario. You talk about psychosomatic or, unconscious beliefs trying to protect you. I did a bunch of tapping. I moved out the pain, and there was nothing wrong with my foot. Nothing. It went away within a day. But you talk about a protective mechanism, that's how the body and energy can work. I've seen so much of that, I can't even tell you how important it is. But we're not taught to pay attention to the signs and symptoms along the way. We're not taught that it's our responsibility to be accountable and responsible for our life and our happiness. Again, that doesn't mean that you can't be in collaboration. It doesn't mean that you can't be in cooperation. But if you're putting the responsibility for your happiness on someone else, I would tell you to step back and question what you're doing. Because what happens when that person's gone? Then you're a mess. Just something to think about. Maybe this doesn't apply to you. Maybe you don't even agree with any of this, and that's okay too. For the people that do, for the people who are unconsciously not aware of some of what they're doing, I tell these stories and do these audio videos so that you can get an idea of, okay, I never even thought of that. Okay, I see those kind of patterns in my family. Okay, I see what I learned that didn't really serve my mother or my father in such a great way. What do I need to unlearn? What do I need to clear that out of my energy? And how can I refocus to make this really joyous and good for me? We learn things, we pass them down, they become rote. We don't even pay attention to half of those things. But if something in your life isn't working, it's time to pay attention. And it's time to pay attention sooner rather than later. Those illnesses, those shocks and traumas later on from some of this kind of learning that you need to unlearn now can be prevented, because illnesses and dis-ease comes when something is way out of whack, way overwhelmed, not paying attention to the signs and symptoms along the way, thinking, oh, I'll get to it. Pay attention to some of that now. And the sooner you do that, the more balanced your life will be. The more balanced your life will be, the happier and more fulfilling it can be. The more you can create what you want, the more the law of attraction will work for you. It's just really an overall, all the way around, good thing to do. I hope this helps. Have you noticed some of those detrimental patterns that you picked up that you do? Are you relying on other people to be accountable and responsible for your life? Are you looking for a partner that's going to be accountable and responsible for your life? Has this made any kind of impact on you? Have you found that you've done some of those kind of patterns and they've bitten you in the butt? I know they did me. I wish I had learned a lot sooner, but I didn't know what I didn't know. That's why I do some of this stuff, so that maybe you can start thinking sooner rather than later before everything falls apart and you're left exhausted holding a bag of empty help. You get what I'm saying. That's not going to be the routine for everybody. And even if you have some of these patterns, that might not be your journey. What is your upbringing continuing to do in your life that might be detrimental or that might not be serving you? It might not even be detrimental, but it might not be serving you in the way that you want. And then you live in conflict between what you've always known and always done and what they've always expected, but this is what I really want and this is who I really am. And I can't do that within this family in the way that my energy is working. Well, you get to change some of those beliefs, emotions, and energy. And I use that tool of EFT to unhook from those beliefs, unhook from those behaviors, unhook from that emotional energy that's playing on your nervous system, that's playing through your body unconsciously, because until something really hits, that's when people look for the answers. When something really hits, you have your own issues and your own problems that have gotten too much that you're at a breaking point and you can't take it anymore. Don't wait to get to that point. Not that life isn't going to hit you and surprise you. It does, and it will. But if you're more balanced when that happens and you have a tool to know how to process those emotions and those events, you will be much better off in the long run. Or at least that's my belief. And I've seen proof of it. So that's why I have that belief. You're entitled to your own belief. I hope this helps. If frequency and energy and patterns and learned behaviors are of interest to you and you want to hear more, subscribe to my channel, sign up for the alerts. If you have any questions, you can always contact me on my email. And if you like this kind of information, you know birds of a feather kind of stick together, so your friends probably are having some similar things that you're going through. Share this with them. Maybe it will enlighten them and bring some awareness that they need as well. You can also go to my website and sign up for my email list so that you will find out when I tell about certain things that might not appear here. And until our paths cross again next time, bye-bye for now.